Welcome to the In Shape Fitness Show. I am Coach Kim, and today's podcast is called The Human Movement's Influence on Invisible Fitness. So I talk about the purpose of daily exercise as being about the ability to function in life without pain and suffering and without medical interventions and drugs. But interestingly enough, a lot of the fitness, a lot of the reason it's difficult to understand the positive consequences of choosing to move in the morning, for example, or choosing to go for a run or choosing to maybe take a yoga class is because what we understand is generally what we see. And there's a lot of fitness that takes place inside of our bodies really deeply at the cellular level that we cannot see. So how do you judge, how can you weigh out properly the impact of making a choice to take care of your body when it's difficult for you to comprehend because it is really invisible? And we talked a little bit about this last week because I was talking about the two different parts of metabolism and how they utilize or how they break down and create the parts that get circulated throughout the body in order for it to operate efficiently and allow your body to function. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the storage of body fat. So I'm going to take some excerpts out of my book. Let's begin, before I start talking about that, with a postural systems check and just a little bit of breath, deep breathing, meditative breathing, so that you can activate your body as you're sitting. Hopefully you are actively sitting. If you're not already, you're going to sit up straight. That means that your body is going to kind of lift up and back, opening up your chest by pushing your shoulders back. You've got that clavicle, the collarbone on both sides of your neck. And if you are seated at a desk all day, if you're driving a car and you're typing on devices, your shoulders roll in and sort of create this closed chest position that is pulling on your upper back and re-establishing a center of gravity that is not natural for the human being on 2 feet. And it is thus difficult for your body to function all that well. So you push your shoulders back, your head, your ears and your shoulders should line up in one straight line. That's the plumb line from your head down to your shoulders. And then make sure, if you are standing up, you tuck in your tailbone, zip up your tummy muscles, and then use all 4 corners of your feet with your feet planted straight forward. Take 5 deep breaths from here. Remember, you want to inhale through your nose. That filters air. Those receptors. You have all of these receptors inside of your nasal cavity that activate when air passes over them and enters the body. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, that is the technical term for the part of your brain that allows your executive function to remain in control over the physiological parts of your body, like your heart rate, your stress hormones, or hormone levels. So maintain that inhale through the nose to precipitate the greatest amount of control that you can have over your body, especially when you're not moving around. Of course, it's really important when you are moving too, but inhale deeply through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Okay. So I have a little bit of a stuffed up nose today. I've been out in Central Park this morning with a client, and I then had to, I will be out all day with the exception of this one short period of time in which I'm able to do the podcast, and the pollen in Central Park is just incredible. So my nose is quite stuffy today. So I want, with my nasally voice, to talk a little bit about the migration of cells, cell replacement, and how some of the activities going on inside of your body that you cannot see have a significant they significantly impact the level of fitness that you are able to maintain as a functional human unit. One of the interesting parts is that there is this whole world of activity going on inside of your body that contributes to the way that you're able to move around. Part of this universe is cell replacement and cell migration. Now, you probably, with the exception of liquids moving around like blood and fluids moving up and through your digestive system, out your urethra when you pee and that sort of thing, but blood flow, but cells actually do move as well. It relates to also the guests, I call them guests, inside of your human house, and they are the microbes that inhabit your body, that make their home inside of your body, in your mouth, on your skin, in your digestive system, and in your genitals. They share the space with your own biome. The biome, the blueprint that makes you. You're a host, and your ability to host all of the cells inside of your body, both the ones that have your DNA and the ones that do not, it remains a bit of a mystery, but even to experts in this field at a much deeper scientific level than that which I am at, the relationship is really, really important. Now, cell migration, the fact that biological cells are moving around in your body is kind of mind-blowing. Like, as I said before, unless you're thinking about bodily fluids like blood or water, but the life of a cell doesn't start and stop in the same place. They move very small, like kind of as I've talked a lot about that trip that Darwin made to the Galapagos Islands and how the tortoise scoots and waddles very slowly. Everybody's seen a turtle move. The easiest way to imagine a situation in which a cell might move, might be to sort of think about the very slow lumbering movement of a turtle. But let's talk about it in terms of something that you can maybe relate to, which is a cut on your finger, right? So let's just say you're standing in your kitchen, you're slicing an apple for breakfast, and you nick your index finger. Now, the bleeding stops. That's moving blood, obviously moving cells. But once it stops, the healing has to begin. And that is when your cells get to work. The first crew on the job activates your immunity response and your pain management. A process called angiogenesis triggers a spawning of capillaries, the tiniest incremental blood vessel. It has to serve the affected area. It has to head towards that little nick on your finger. And the blood, there aren't capillaries there, so they have to generate in order to get there. Then they can turn the flow of blood on. Capillaries have blood inside of them when they're using, but the capillaries themselves are made of skin epithelial cells, so those cells have to be spawned, and then they have to move to form little tiny tubes that service the injury. As the injury heals, the blood flow decreases, the temporary capillaries die off, they retreat, and they send the remains through the larger blood vessel veins into recycling to newer cells. Of course, obviously, you don't get a metabolic benefit to a cut finger, but similar cell movement is happening in your body throughout the day. Capillary work is actually really, really, really fascinating. Capillary work or non-work, capillary inertia, factors into your daily metabolism, though. It's something to think about, really think about in terms of the choices that you make. You have 40 billion capillaries that are ready to work inside of your body. However, they don't keep blood moving inside of them unless they are in use. So you have capillaries in your feet down the lower parts of your legs. You have capillaries in your hands and your feet. Obviously, you have capillaries in your tummy and throughout your body. They're all over the place, 40 billion, right? But they're more like they're on call. I think it's helpful to use terms that are so ridiculous in terms of actual body parts. But it is true that they're sort of sleeping. They're like a faucet maybe in a large house or maybe in a hotel. Switched on, the blood flows. It should, and it does, hopefully it does, into the capillaries with ease, unless you have, a medical issue. Now you've got neuropathies and restricted blood flow issues in terms of your extremities. That is a direct result of the sedentary existence and medical conditions as a result of sedentary lifestyles that I'm talking about right now. Sedentary parts of the body, and therefore empty capillaries. They're just waiting around for their job to begin. So what happens when workers are ready to work and they don't have anything to do? Again, it's kind of ridiculous to think about it this way, but they get lazy. They chill. They stop paying attention. Maybe they doze off for a bit. This is how I write about it in the book. I'm pulling actually text now directly from the book because I think it's so funny, and I have this other really interesting story to tell. I probably won't do it in this podcast about comparing fat storage to actual personal storage. The growth of the personal storage industry in the United States. It's really pretty fascinating. Anyway, so back to our lazy capillary cells. They develop a resistance really to mustering in when they get called into action. And this is that metabolic slowdown, that condition that slows the body down fundamentally at its essence. And that is what is so troubling about the way that we live our lives now, about the challenge that we have to try to schedule a big workout in a couple times a week, because that's what the doctors have been telling us. And to a certain degree, they're not incorrect. But when you just sit around the rest of the time, there is a really fundamental challenge, an environment being set up inside of your body that is not sustainable. So, only a fraction of a person's blood volume resides in the capillaries at any given resting moment. And I reiterate that point. I've already said it really, but I want to also just reiterate that the number of capillaries, all those billions, 40 billions worth of capillaries stretched out in a line, would be about 50,000 miles. So that, knowing that capillaries rest without flow of liquid inside of them, rest without the blood flow moving, as opposed to like your arteries and your veins, the larger blood vessels where there is constant blood flow, right? Obviously, your heart and your brain, all of your vital organs, and even your biggest muscle groups are moving enough to where they are generate blood flow at all times. But it's those extremities and the smaller tissues where the true dormancy makes this local level really significant in terms of the fitness that they can see, but dealt with in terms of the fitness that you cannot see. So long-term improvements on the cellular level at the microscopic fitness level really does trump the gains that you can make if you binge exercise once or twice a week and then crash out or, sit on your butt the rest of the day. So I hope you're taking your breaths. You're continuing to think about the significance, even the breath itself. All of those tiny little cellular components of your lung capacity are affected in a similar way. They're not activated by shallow breathing, but they do get activated when you breathe really deeply. So even if you're sitting at your desk right now and you can't get up and walk around and sort of feel what I'm talking about here, where you begin to feel blood flow in your lower extremities or throughout your body. If you get down on the floor and say hold a plank, if you breathe real deeply, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth, you're going to feel the positive effects of what I'm talking about here, of deepening your level of understanding, in trusting in the fact that you can't see it, but it's just as important as the fitness that you can see. So I want to give you a couple of exercises that you can do to help you understand, feel a sense of what it is like when the capillary buildup or the initial sort of activation of the capillaries can really feel like something. The best way that I know how to do that is to, aside from elevating your heart rate, because then you know that if you are jogging in place or jumping up and down, or perhaps even, doing something like skipping or lunging or even walking uphill, your heart rate increases. And the reason it increases because the entire body needs more oxygenated blood in order to operate all of the moving parts. So your heart rate elevates in order to get that oxygenated blood out to the body. But you can also feel it if you stand on one leg for about 30 seconds on each leg. Now, if you don't have great balance and you're concerned about your ability to stand on one leg, hold on to something. You can still feel the effects, even if it's not quite as drastic as you would feel if you were doing it without that support structure. But we do an exercise called the forward reach, which is where you stand on one leg. Let's just pretend we're focusing on the right leg stability. So you're standing on the right leg. As you lift up the left leg, you lift it towards the back, to the back, and then your left hand reaches towards the floor. So you're elevating your heart rate a little bit because you're inverting your trunk, and then you're stabilizing on the right foot with the balance that hopefully you're able to muster. Now, as you lift your body back up, because of this effort, you will feel blood elevating, like heating up the lower part of your leg and your foot. That heat that is generated, the feel of increased temperature, are all of the capillaries turned on, woken, ready for battle, standing at the front lines, waiting to do what they need to do. So that is the best example that I give to clients in terms of understanding how the inside of the body so affects the outside operation of the body. I am going to let you go with that. It is great to be with you. If you have questions about this concept, about any of our work in New York City or online, please get in touch with us at bodybynshape.com. And I will be back next week with another podcast about fitness and about my book, Darwin on the Treadmill, which is not to print yet, but we're working on that very steadfastly. And I'll also be back next week on the AM Muscle Maintenance Show for another exercise, a workout, an equipment-free workout that hopefully you'll join me for as well. Have a great day.